Spring is here and surprise surprise, I'm in the mood to paint. So I was going over my list of possible fun and creative art videos that I could make so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't forget I exist, and one of those ideas was to draw famous paintings as characters. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to start with Claude Monet. Monet is one of my favourite classical artists. He was the founder of Impressionism, which is that art style that makes you feel like you need to book another appointment with the optician. His paintings are very pretty and whimsical, with his most famous being his water lily paintings, which is what I used as reference. I didn't really have a clear plan of how I was going to draw my character, I just made her up as I went along. To start with, I painted a little watercolour background, taking inspiration from one of Monet's water lily paintings. And when I say I took inspiration, I mean I blatantly copied it. I used watercolour paint to give a little contrast from the character, and give it a bit of a hazy look. I used my watercolour cards that I tested in a video a couple of years ago, so I will leave a link somewhere if you'd like to see that. I also painted a few gouache water lilies just to add a little interest to the illustration. I mostly painted them freehand, so not the best lilies I've ever done. I've definitely done better. As for the character design, well, most of Monet's paintings of nature that I saw have a very peaceful and somewhat ethereal look to them, so I wanted to try and incorporate that concept into my illustration. As I said before, I just made her up as I went along, and as I was drawing, I was sort of playing with the idea that maybe she could be a water nymph of some kind, and I made up a story to go with her, so here it is. She is a water nymph. She lived in Monet's water gardens in Giverny many years ago, and one day she sighted a young tourist walking over the bridge, visiting the gardens for the first time, and instantly fell in love. And ever since, she has been waiting on the banks of the pond, hoping that he will return. But, alas, she never saw him again. And ever since, she has been waiting on the banks of the pond, hoping that he will return. Her story's a bit of a Greek tragedy, if you couldn't tell. So anyway, I played around with shape language a little bit, especially with the hair and dress. So I wanted to keep in mind the idea of water. So for the hair, I drew it very long and straight, flowing down to the ground, almost like a waterfall. And for the dress, I also made it very flowy and draped across the floor. And I thought it'd be fun to paint the pattern on the dress to look like water, almost as if that's what it's made of, which would be an interesting dress in real life. Can you imagine an everyday dress that looks like it's been made of water? Maybe that exists, I don't know. Anyway, I also, of course, incorporated water lilies into the design. She has a few little ones in her hair and is holding a bigger one in her hands. And here is the result, a beautiful water nymph inspired by Claude Monet's water lilies. I think we've started off quite well. I think she's turned out very pretty. So let's move on to the next one. You're probably already familiar with this Dutch artist. He's appeared in films, songs, and even Doctor Who. When it comes to pronouncing his name, there are a variety of choices from different regions, from Van Gogh to Van Gogh to Van Gogh. But it's apparently supposed to be pronounced Van Gogh. Van Gogh. Van Gogh. I think I'm going to stick to Vincent. His arguably two most famous paintings are Starry Night and Sunflowers, the latter actually being one of 11 sunflower-themed pieces Vincent did, earning him the reputation as the painter of sunflowers. So I decided to make my illustration a blend of the two. I had the idea of drawing a boy holding a fallen star in a sunflower field at night. And that's it, really. I didn't put much thought into the story arc this time, other than the sunflower background, which reminded me of a painting I did last year of a girl in a sunflower field. So maybe he's a friend or a cousin even, who's come to visit her, and whilst walking through her field he finds a fallen star. I like the idea of my two painted characters existing in the same universe. So for the design, firstly I painted some of the background features inspired by Vincent's art style, particularly the moon and star, but only a little bit because I wanted the illustration to be mostly in my own style, of course. I also mostly kept to dark blue, gold and orange colours, which seem to be the colour palette Vincent is most known for. For the boy, I intended to draw him a bit more chubby than I usually draw, because I've been trying to practice drawing different body shapes recently, and I was thinking about how we almost never see plus-size men in media unless they're meant to be comical. I'm not sure how clear it is that he's supposed to be plus-size though, because of his outfit and pose. In fact, I'm not even sure he looks male, but it was an honest attempt anyway. Speaking of outfits, I gave him a little capelet with the Starry Night painting as the pattern, which was quite fun to do because I've never painted Starry Night before, and I painted his hair ginger as a not so subtle nod to Vincent himself. So, this painting took me much longer to finish than I anticipated. I think it's because I wasn't 100% enthusiastic whilst painting. Boys aren't my favourite subject to draw, but I still like how it turned out. I think it looks very magical and rather eye-catching. So this last artist is one that until recently I didn't actually know the name of, but I was familiar with one of his paintings. This one, which if you don't recognise it as a painting, you might recognise it as a dress. In 1965, Yves Saint Laurent designed a line of dresses inspired by Mondrian's work, which not only revolutionised 1960s fashion, but also became Saint Laurent's iconic signature style. Anyway, as for the artist himself, Piet Mondrian was a Dutch artist who lived in the early 20th century and is famous for being one of the pioneers of abstract art. Although Mondrian actually started out creating somewhat more realistic paintings, he slowly began taking inspiration from Cubism and simplified his art style to such a degree that he would only use three primary colours, black and white, and horizontal or vertical lines, a technique he called neoplasticism. I must admit, abstract is not an art style I particularly like. Personally, I tend to gravitate toward more pretty detail, but I wanted to choose a painting that was a bit different from the last two, and I was instantly inspired for a character from his composition of red, blue and yellow. So, moving on to that. Seeing as his painting is basically just squares and rectangles, I wanted to incorporate those shapes into my illustration. So I drew a lot of straight lines and sharp angles, and I used as many block shapes as I could. I also posed the character and cat to make the shape of a rectangle. I designed the character based in the 1960s, inspired by the Yves Saint Laurent dress, and if you've seen my video of me redrawing my childhood art, you'll know that I like drawing retro girls. For her makeup, I went for a 60s look, and I originally gave her red lipstick to match her dress, but I then thought that perhaps red wouldn't match the 60s look I was going for, so I changed it to a lighter nude colour, but I didn't like how that looked, so as you will see, I later swapped back to red. For her outfit, at first I wasn't going to give her a dress, because I didn't want it to appear like I had just drawn the dress that I keep mentioning. So when I was sketching, I first gave her a jumpsuit of some kind, but I didn't like that because, 1, trousers would cover up her shoes, which I will discuss in a moment, and I didn't want that because I liked the shoes, and I also wanted to make her appear like she was pulling them up. So there's a reason for her standing the way she is, other than her just having a bad back. And 2, because I wanted the pattern of whatever she would wear to be the Mondrian painting, so to have it going all the way down to her feet would have looked too busy. So I think the shorter dress was the best option, and I gave it sleeves to make it look a bit more original. For her shoes, she's wearing white go-go boots because nothing says the 1960s more than white boots. In fact, I recently got a pair for my birthday and I love them. Also, I kept everything besides the dress as simple as possible, like the hair, shoes, etc., so as not to distract from the dress itself. So, who is she anyway? Well, I named her Cecilia because I had the song in my head whilst painting, and she is an art expert. She knows everything there is to know about art. She can instantly spot a fake, track down stolen artwork, and even decode mysteries hidden in paintings, and all with her intelligent cat, Piet. So she's quite famous in art circles. As for her cat, Piet, I originally planned to paint him black, but I decided I didn't really like that when I tested the colours digitally, and I kept wanting to paint him ginger, so I did. But I didn't paint too much detail on him because, as I said, I wanted to keep everything as simple as possible, so I just painted a few stripes on his fur. And that is the final character complete. I actually think I like this one the best. I definitely had the most fun with it, and I love how the whole design turned out. So now we come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you think I should do this challenge again, and if so, which artist should I pick next time. Make sure to give it a like. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!